Well, hello, my friends. How are you all doing today? Look at that. An impromptu. Not really that impromptu, but I think our first ever, or maybe like a second time we've ever done a Sunday stream. But I'm pretty sure it's the first time. I don't think we've streamed on Sunday before. However, I hope you all are doing well and that you've had a blessed day. Well, yeah, Val, but I am trying to maintain the streaming streak. So, my goal is to stream for as many days as I can without breaking that streak. I pondered very heavily on if Sundays would be involved in that, but I eventually I made peace with it. I do not think that it draws away from my duties as a Christian, especially because I don't really consider it that much of a work. It's more just, this is me just hanging out with y'all. It's a good enjoyment. It is fellowship with my fellow Christians in its own way, I think. But regardless, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Regardless of where you are in the world, God bless you, my friends. I hope that you're doing well. Rebozo, I'm glad to hear that you're having a wonderful weekend. That is always a good thing to have. I'm always pleased to hear when others are having a good time. Of course, we will be getting started here in just a minute or two. We're not going to be so formal today because it is a Sunday. And this is more just a relaxing stream. I'm rather tired at the moment. But we will start with our prayer here momentarily. If you have a prayer request, let me know. Then we will hop into our verse of the day. We'll continue on with the book of John. And then we're going to work on our map some more. We're going to do some more artwork. I say in very large quotations. Thoughts on the new major order? Is there another new major order, or is it the 10 defenses still? Okay, yeah, Syl says the 10 defense planet operation. I think that's Joel's not so subtle way of telling us that he's a little angry that we blitzed the last major order so quickly. He gave us 6 days to kill 2 billion bugs. We killed 2 billion bugs in 14 hours. And we have never succeeded in a defend X number of planets order. Because whenever it's that kind of order, there's just not enough coordination, so we end up getting overrun. And then we have to take ground back afterwards during more targeted major orders. So I think it was just Joel's way of telling us to leave him alone for a few days. Because, yeah. Oh, good lord, Val. Holy moly. Okay, well, I'm back. Okay. Hopefully, we will stay back. I don't know why that happened. That has not happened in quite some time. But yeah, no, I am shocked to hear this, Val. We definitely have some prayers in regard to that, but yeah, that is startling news. Yeah, I can imagine you were shocked to see it happen. It's goodness gracious, especially because Huskies aren't exactly known for being, overly aggressive. If it was like a pit bull or something, I'd be like, yeah, I could kind of see that coming. But a Husky, don't know of the cat clawed her. Oh. Yeah, if that happened, that would make some degree of sense if she overstepped there and like properly attacked the dog, but I am startled regardless. Like I said, it's not super common that you hear of that from a husky. At least not that I'm aware of. But yeah, we will keep you and your family in our prayers. We'll keep your mother-in-law in prayer for that. But cat was an elderly outside cat, and Nim always loved playing with her. I could see that escalating then. Being an outside cat, they tend to be a little bit more inherently feral leaning, you know? And being elderly, sometimes they're not great about having ample patience at all times. Sometimes they're good about it, sometimes they're not. But regardless, yeah, that's going to be an interesting way to be spending Sunday. Regardless, I'm sorry to hear it, my friend. But yes, we will keep that in prayer, and we'll hop in. I suppose we can get started. If anyone else trickles in, we'll see if they have any prayer requests. But for now, I think it is safe to say we are ready to get going. Well, of course, my friend, I am always happy to pray. Always happy to pray for y'all. It's one of the few things I can do, so. Let's get started, shall we? Heavenly Father, we come to you today, and as we do, I ask that you open our hearts and our minds to the good word. You provide us guidance and discernment that we may better understand the lessons, whether they be found here in the good word or they be found in our day-to-day life. I ask that you continue to serve as a strong refuge for us, giving us a place where we can gather with our fellow Christians, where we can renew and refresh ourselves, and give us the strength that we need to continue our walk alongside you, our endeavors to live in a Christ-like fashion in a world that is so very full of worldly temptations all around us. I ask for healing and for understanding to reign in this situation with Valmont's family. We know that it is never something that anyone wants to have, the loss of a pet. It can hurt almost as much as the loss of a loved one at times. But we just ask that cooler heads succeed in this situation and that a peaceable resolution can be reached quickly, and that no ill will is left over from it, even though it can be a hard moment for many. I ask for your healing hands on each and every one of us. You know each and every one of our personal struggles, whether they've been mentioned here or not. You know them. And it is you who will decide how we go about that healing. I ask for your mercy and for your forgiveness, for we are not but sinners and fools. But above all, I ask that your will be done here on earth, and that we may have that sight necessary to understand what your will is and what our part in it is. In Jesus Christ's holy name we pray. Amen. All right. Hopefully that prayer was well enough. Of course, my friend. Like I said, I'm always happy to pray for you. That goes for everyone here. I'm not that much of a prayer warrior compared to some folk. Some folks seem to have it dialed in perfectly, but I do my darndest. However, moving on to our verse of the day, coming from the King James Version of the Bible, John 10:28 through 30. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father, which gave them me, is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my hand, out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. A very reassuring one, and kind of touches on some of the stuff we talked about yesterday during our Bible readings and the verse of the day yesterday, and some of the conversations that just went on. We are granted this unique and perfect gift of redemption, forgiveness from the Lord. And it's important to remember, because especially nowadays, I know a lot of us are struggling with not only temptation, but when failure occurs, there's always that nagging little voice, that little voice of the devil in the back, trying to say, you're no good. You've messed up too much this time. You couldn't ever get back into the good graces of God. And that is simply not true. As per usual, it is the devil lying through his teeth. The only thing that he has going for him, the only thing in his power, is to lie to you. He cannot pluck you out of the Lord's hand. He cannot pick you out of the Father's hand. He cannot pick you out of Christ's hand. You can't even truly pick yourself out of Christ's hand. Once you've accepted him, there's a something to it, and you're not able to get back out of that so easily. But as I always say, that does not mean you shouldn't try. To walk alongside the Lord, to live in a Christ-like fashion, is hard. It is brutally hard at times, especially in the world of today. But you should never stop trying, and you should certainly never stop asking for that forgiveness. It's given, but that does not mean you should presume to not ask for it, you know? It's one of those things. It's such an amazing gift, and you should never take it for granted. However, moving on to John 17. Sorry if I sound a little out of it today. Like I said, I'm a bit tired. I don't think we'll go too long today, but we will go for a little bit. I want to at least try to do an hour once we get through the Bible reading. I'm going to hop into our project from yesterday, and we'll continue on to that. So, John 17, these words spake Jesus, and lifted up his eyes to heaven, and said, Father, the hour is come, glorify the Son, that the Son may glorify thee, as thou hast given him power over all flesh, that he should give eternal life to as many as thou hast given him. And this is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. I have glorified thee on the earth. I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. And now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. I have manifested thy name unto the men which thou gavest me out of the world. Thine they were, and thou gavest them me, and they kept thy word. Now they have known that all things whatsoever thou hast given me are of thee. For I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me. And they have received them, and have known surely that I came out from thee. And they have believed that thou didst send me. I pray for them. I pray not for the world, but for them which thou hast given me. For they are thine, and all mine are thine. And thine are mine, and I am glorified in them. And now I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to thee, Holy Father. Keep through thine own name those whom thou hast given me, that they may be one as we are. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name. Those that thou gavest me I have kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, that the scripture might be fulfilled. And now I come to thee, and now I come to thee, and none of them is lost. No, okay, hold on. And these things, okay, I see where I got. And now I come to thee, and these things I speak in the world, that they might have my joy fulfilled in themselves. I have given them thy word, and the world hath hated them, because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. I pray not that thou shouldest take them out of the world, but thou should keep them from the evil. They are not of the world. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. As thou hast sent me into the world, even so have I also sent them into the world. And for their sakes I sanctify myself, that they also might be sanctified through the truth. Neither pray I for these alone, but for them also which shall believe on me through their word, that they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. And the glory which thou gavest me I have given them, that they may be one, even as we are one. I in them, and thou in me, that they may be made perfect in one, that the world may know that thou hast sent me, and hast loved them as thou hast loved me. Father, I will that they also, whom thou hast given me, be with me where I am, that they may behold my glory, which thou hast given me. For thou lovest me before the foundation of the world. O righteous Father, the world hath not known thee, but I have known thee, and these have known that thou hast sent me. And I have declared unto them thy name, and will declare it, that the love wherewith thou hast loved me may be in them, and I in them. Some very heavy scripture through there, and my apologies for my stumbling here and there. Anytime that it turns to just a wall of either straight red or straight black text, it can get a little bit, at times, my brain starts to struggle to delineate where one line ends and where another begins. I need to Need to call the VA and see about going in and getting my prescription worked with a little bit. I've gotten largely used to reading with these glasses, but the stagger on the view, it can be difficult at times. Increases my already frequent habit of stumbling over my own words. However, now we get into the next part. Let me change our category over. There we are. Once again, we will be working on our little project here. Even now, I can see some things that I want to change that I'm going to work on today that we're going to try to improve. Starting over here. Because I am not happy with this area. It is not sufficient for what I wanted. Let's see, how does that one look? That's too big. That's too small. That should do. I do apologize if the very loud music outside gets picked up through my microphone. Hopefully my noise suppression is sufficient to where that will not be an issue, but someone is out there playing music in their car so loud that it is shaking the building. So, favorite kind of person, you know, that kind of person. Just absolutely, just love being around that kind of person. So we'll extend it to about here, because this is supposed to be where the marsh kind of breaks up into a bit more of almost a beach. It's not a beach, but I don't know what the appropriate word would be otherwise. I don't know what the word in for a swamp-like beach would be. But that looks a lot better. That is much more how I wanted that to look. Good stuff. So then, back over to here. Or wait, no, should we? I should probably extend this more towards that bridge, I guess. I've been kind of... Oh, I'm still on zoom out. My bad. Take a wee bit of that, and... So over through here, it's not going to be as consistent because, well, I guess it should probably actually be relatively consistent through some of the areas at least. But maybe it's been worn down, you know, just from heavy foot traffic and the natural wear and tear that occurs in the bayous and the swamps. Because that is actually something that I wasn't happy with, is the amount of area where it's almost perfect and it really doesn't, like it wouldn't be, you know? Like, these zones would be paved, but they're not going to be perfectly paved, and they're not even paved, I guess. You're mostly going to be seeing what is essentially cobble and some gravel type materials through these areas for the walkways. Kind of break up these corners because these aren't like businesses or anything, so I feel like with this town that would not get very high priority on getting what little bit of the areas do actually have the paving type materials. Or essentially the areas where, the road is of a slightly higher quality. And then this area would get some of it back because this is like a higher end area. The zone where the city has reason to try and maintain some of the infrastructure, Though still not going to be perfect because that's just the way of the swamp out here. This zone is supposed to be, while it's more civilized and developed than most of the surrounding area, it's still, at the end of the day, this is still like miles and miles of swamp in every direction, and the only real way to get here is typically through boats that are piloted by guides that are locals. That looks a little bit better. Gives it a bit more of a natural flow, It's almost a river, even though this whole place is man-made. So for anyone that is curious, the name Polder Bog, specifically Polder, let me pull up that origin. So polders are artificial landforms that the Dutch made. They're essentially like floating, how to say it? So essentially you build up walls on several sides and you kind of make artificial land out of zones that are waterlogged. So for the Dutch, that's something they had to do a lot because, a lot of their land is very low land. It's very close to the ocean, so they've had to reclaim a lot of their land. In this case, my polders are kind of the opposite approach to it, where these are almost floating land masses that have been built up over centuries by locals, whether it be through magical means or just through sheer determination of figuring out how to make your own little semi-solid islands. So, through a lot of this area, you're walking on quote-unquote solid ground, but it's not actually that solid. It's probably only a handful of feet deep of solid ground before you get to water. And then from under there, it's kind of, if you've ever seen like how islands are formed, where they kind of build up bases around them, these, like, you would be talking like there might be kind of a silty, dirty base that's like built through here. That's been built up due to how long the island has been over top. And there'd be one, over here, but none of them are going to expand all the way out. So, like, how normally an island, you'd go off and it's shallow, shallow, shallow until you hit a shelf and it drops off. Where the shelf for the island that it was formed on is. Here, it's basically just straight into the water. It's going to be almost like you step off and you're into relatively deep water. And if you were to swim underneath, you would be able to literally, like, you could swim under this area if you could hold your breath long enough. The only actual solid land being here, and I reckon I'm probably going to have, like, the core of this island be one as well, where there was originally an actual island here, and the rest of this was built up over time to give them more land, because this is the old bog town. This was, like, the original, this is where the quote-unquote native kind of groups would be from in this area, where it's much more overtaken by the plant life of the bayous and the swamps, and there's little tribal settlements here and there scattered around it, versus the more developed zone, which would have come from whenever this was built, because this is the primary dock, which is where like 90% of trade and whatnot in this region is going to be going through to get to the mountain. Because in my head, the way this works is, so inside of Black Claw Mountain is, here, let me, so, and I think if Val's in here, I think I may have shown her all of this. I hope I did. If I didn't, that's my bad. Because this is the continent map. There could be more. There could be more continents on this planet. This may just be one continent, or it could be the primary. I don't know if we're working with like a Pangea type situation or not. But this was the continent I designed for the D&D world that we're working with. We're located over here primarily for the story in the Wasting Marshes at Black Claw Mountain, which is in the very center of the Wasting Marshes, which is called that for a reason. Almost everything from like where these rivers essentially from, I'm thinking like right about there, all the way down. Some of it would go over into here, and all the way up into there. All of this is just one gigantic swamp, essentially. With the only real thing outside of the swamp being the Black Claw Mountain, which fell to the planet at some point in the past. And over time, with its being a source of treasure and adventures and whatnot, people naturally started coming here, but due to how hard it is to traverse, they're mostly going to be coming up through this river here. Marsh Pier being where most of them will have arrived, that being kind of the only proper dock town, port town in the entire area that actual decent sized ships can reach. And then from there, traveling up the Caraway River to Polderbog, and then Polderbog sitting at the base of the mountain right at the entrance. So as time passed, more and more adventurers head towards mountains and big events happen there. More people need to come up the river, so stuff starts to get developed. Thus, where this town comes from. It's not much. It's still a work in progress, very much so. But I think that so far it's coming along. I hope that it is up to snuff, as it were. Alright. Okay, yeah. I like how the little peninsula there's coming out. Because this is one of the, like, really underdeveloped zones. Basically, no one lives here just because naturally over time this kind of formed, this becoming kind of the main street. And there's also some explanation for that for later. But I won't go too far into that particular bit because I don't want to spoil stuff. I've got story ideas and whatnot for over there. This I need to round a bit because right now it's just way too much of a hard corner right there, and I don't care for it. Hard lines like that don't happen very often in nature. So it can happen, you know, mind you, but super infrequent. And considering that none of this is like paved paths, this is essentially supposed to be kind of like paths that have been carved out over years of people walking through them. And if you've ever, like I was saying yesterday, if you've ever seen on like a college campus where they'll lay sidewalks, all around those areas that are sidewalks will be this. If you put your sidewalk in a dumb spot, people don't use it. They just cut through, and over time, you get a more naturally occurring path that'll kind of form. Which is a good way to find out if you were smart about the placement of your walkways and whatnot. Did these tracks, like these kind of tracks where people walked through, did these form? If yes, you were not effective on your placement of your paths. And you should probably redress that because, you know, you didn't succeed in your objective. Of course, it's not always true. Sometimes people just do it because they're lazy, but more often than not, that laziness is stemming from you did something that made it more difficult to do something. And if you had just made it simple for them to follow the path that you had made, they probably would have followed it because they will take the path of least resistance. Of course, that's not always 100% true, mind you. Nothing I say is. But 9 times out of 10, they're not going to go out of their way to do something that is more difficult for them. Most people just do not function that way. There we go. So we got that. That path is developed nicely enough. Okay, which brings us over to this side. Start working on the prison island, or the guard island. I think, what did I end up calling this area? The Bastion. So this is the bastion of the region, essentially. The main zone where the guard and whatnot have kind of consolidated over time. Primarily as this is the break point between the main island, the slum island, and then the rich folks island. And knowing rich folks, they have a habit of wanting to be as far away from those that they consider to be lesser than them. And they like to have walls between them. Something that they won't always afford you, but something they will always afford themselves. Armed guards and tall walls. Okay, so we'll scoot a little bit further over, start laying the groundwork for the other one. This one will be relatively common as well in use. None of these being super heavily used, because the only people that are largely going to be traveling this way being the richer folk. And whatever staff they require for functioning of their homes. So it will be a darkened path, but not super prominent. They kind of save that for their island, where we'll see the largest amount of kind of the more solidly paved walkways and whatnot. I keep saying paved just because it's easier than specifying each time that it's gravel and cobble, but there we go. Really muddy this zone up, because this is going to be where a good bit of the traction through here does go. And then we've got to the slums. This is going to be a very dark path for obvious reasons. This is where most of the guard patrols are heading in town most of the time, is to the slum area. And then right through here is going to be the main entrance. So darken that up. But we're also going to have kind of a path that's been cut out here from whenever guards are returning from the slums, where they've kind of just cut straight across, you know? And then I'll do that. I'll lighten this zone up a little bit. All right. Now I'll pick that one back up. Zoom in a wee bit closer so we can touch these spots up. There we go. That's much nicer. Now you can't hardly tell. There we go. Yeah, I think I'm going to need to thicken that area up again, because that's just not, it's looking too scrawny, especially right through here. Oh, we're still on zoom in. I selected zoom out. Okay, so let's see now. That looks better. Now it looks more what I was hoping for, you know? Some nice dark prominent paths, a little bit less prominent going off into the rich folks island, and then through here we're going to have a lot of the gray walkways where they'll have built up the infrastructure. Which means, though, next target is over here, kind of the administrative area. Okay, how on a scale of 1 to 10, how noticeable is that? Not very, but it gives it a little bit of a depth of color. We'll need to do a bit more to get the impact that I'm wanting, though. It's very slight. We'll probably darken that more up over time. Esnek, thank you for the hydrate and the stretch. Let me go grab a bottle of water because I don't actually have anything to hydrate with. So, one moment.
Oh no! Oh, the car is very broken. Where'd the engine go?
1 through 5, suggested by Soldier of God. At the same time came the disciples unto Jesus, saying, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, Verily I say unto you, except...
Okay, we're back. Oh, whose emote is that? Oh, it's yours. Oh, okay. I dig it. I dig it, Esnek. Oh, there we go. Hydrated and stretched. So let's zoom back in and we'll continue kind of working. Actually, man, I don't like that it did that as just like a block. But we'll fix it. We'll fix it. But how have you been? What did you miss? Well, just me working on the town. Well, since you're here, I suppose we will back out and show you what we've got so far. So, this is the current state of Polderbog. Still working on it. Still has a lot of work to be done, but yes, this is Polderbog. So, of course, this being our main island, which has gotten most of the work so far. I still need to figure out how I'm going to do wooden roofs to look decently, and how I'm going to make the stone roofs look decent, honestly, because I don't think just having them flat like that works. Yes, Black Claw, the entrance to it, is over here. So, here, I can give a better layout of what the whole of what I've done so far is, and we can see what you think of what I got so far. So, backing all the way out, so I don't have any resources available at the moment, Esnek. I can do some digging to find some thatch roofs, but so far I'm just doing everything by hand. So, but I don't think thatch roofs would be a bad one. I'm still looking for resources and ideas because it is supposed to be a swampy town. So I'm trying to get that vibe as well, you know. But here's what we have so far. This being the continent that we're working with. I don't think I ever gave the continent a name, and I don't know if this is a Pangea situation where this is the only continent on the planet, or this is just the continent we happen to be operating on at the time. The main story, however, taking place over here in the Wasting Marshes, because the Wasting Marshes are a giant continuous swamp region with Black Claw Mountain sitting at the center of it. The only real good way to get there being through the Caraway River. How many subs to name the continent? I've never considered selling the the naming rights to the continent, but if you do have a good idea for a name, I'm not opposed. Name something. Oh no. All right, Val, what are we naming the continent? Hold on, let me get something to write this down with. I forgot I have that as a redeem. I'm not even going to lie. Put it up to a vote. Okay, so we need... Then we would need at least 2 names to pit against each other. We could do it on the server. That would allow us to have a more proper long-term vote on it. So I might do it there. But, I mean, if you have name suggestions, go ahead and shoot them this way. I'd named the countries and whatnot, but I have not named the continent. Alduan? All right, so that's Val's pitch for continent name. Cromdor. All right. So I'll have to put up a poll on the server for that. Esnek, are you in our Discord server? I think you are, but if not, that is where I'll be putting that poll up to the rest of the community. Okay, sweet. Then we will do it through there. So, but continuing with our rundown. So the Black Claw Mountain being the center of the Wasting Marshes, there's only one good way to get to it, which is to go up the Kararay River, which entails, typically, because of it being a shallow but wide river, think like some parts of the Mississippi and whatnot, the only way to get up it is through barges or through smaller vessels that are often going to be guided by local guides who know the waters. The only deep water port being here at Marsh Pier and all the way up here at Blightport. But Blightport is so far away from the Black Claw Mountain that to try to trek through it would be a nightmare to come from that zone. So basically, if you want to come here, and since Black Claw Mountain attracts so much treasure seeking and other craziness because of what goes on in it, there's a lot of traffic that'll come through here to Marsh Pier and then have to come up the river to Polderbog. Since Polderbog is the only other large settlement in this region, there's a couple other little ones here and there, but that would be the only good way to get up it. Lots of zealots. Yep. So you land in Marsh Pier, you take a vessel up to Polderbog, and then you enter Black Claw Mountain. This, of course, being Polderbog. This being Old Polderbog, the original place. So this is going to be the only one that's an actual island, and that'll only be part of it. And the island with the tower on it. Beyond that, though, these are all polders, or they're my variant of polders. Polders being a Dutch word for a kind of water reclamation thing that you can do, where you're to reclaim land from water. It's a thing that they designed, because if you know anything about the area the Dutch live in, it's very low lands and it's full of a lot of ocean water, so they have specialized in essentially creating land or reclaiming land from the ocean. This is kind of the opposite approach, where it's making land. All of these islands, all 5 of these. Yes, okay, I can count. 5 islands. These are all artificial, built up over time, built up over centuries almost, with a mixture of magic and practicality, which makes them unique. So they're solid, but only so deep. Once you go more than several feet down, you're going to start digging into water and into deep roots and mud, where it starts to get questionable if you're digging into land or you're digging into the water now. Because where regular islands sit, so normally on an island like this, if you went into the water, it starts off shallow, gets deeper as you go away from it, because the island is sat atop something. Here, there's a kind of core for each island. So if you were to go through into this area, say, you're probably not going to be able to dive deep enough unless you're an aquatic species to reach the bottom. Because eventually this reaches the bottom of the swamp and the marshes and has a thinner pillar there. But that means if you step off here, it's immediately deep water. But it's that deep, muck water that you associate with swamps. So, even like some of these islands may at times artificially expand out to like, much further depending on how much plant life is going at the time. Blackwater? Hold on, let me Google. Yes, there are lots of vegetations and trees. So in these zones that are not like, so other than kind of through here where they'll have cleared a lot of it out, a lot of this gets into to very questionable, like, am I walking on land or am I walking through very, very muddy water that just happens to have just enough consistency to hold me? Trees coming up out of the water, yes. Stuff like that. This is all, like I said, like we're centered here. The only proper waterway is the Caraway River. This is like the only spot where the water is clear enough for decent sized boats. Okay, yes. So then this is all black water, basically. Most of all of the water around here is black water, only traversable by very, very shallow canoes for the most part. And as such, most of it is required that you'll have to take the bridges to get between these islands. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. So that would be kind of more what you're dealing with here. This being part of the main island that has not developed, you could theoretically, if you can hold your breath long enough, dive on this side and swim to this side. But also you could walk atop of it. So it's just, can you dive deep enough to get underneath what is the artificial land mass for these? Whereas if you go off over to here, then it gets into the more black water. So I'll probably, with time, try to find a way to delineate what is darker, blacker water. Essentially, yes. They're artificial islands nestled amongst, yes, essentially black ocean. Some of it being dense enough to where you could walk through some zones, but a lot of it is, if it's not like developed, most of it is going to be, if you were to walk through it, you will be wading through it. And it'd be quite high wading too. You just came back from a natural park swamp yesterday. Well, awesome. You probably have some good ideas on how it looks and what I'm kind of going for then. So, that being said, that's why this has kind of formed. This is most of these islands being artificial. Like I said, so I'm planning about a third of this one is going to be actual island. So it's an actual chunk of land that will have existed beforehand, because this is old Polderbog. This is where the inhabitants of the swamps were primarily living. But over time, Polderbog proper developed. And of course, this is also a solid island, which is why there's a large tower built on it. But I'll come back to that later. So, over time, the port was built for the need to move goods in and out of the area, which spawned the first island, and then the first section of the main island going to Black Claw Mountain. Because this would be the area where they could get closest with it not turning into black water, so decent or larger sized vessels could still potentially get here, like barges and whatnot, and riverboats. So they'd offload their stuff. This is going to be the mayor, I believe this is going to be the mayor or city hall type building, if I remember correctly. This is the Bog Watch, which is going to be a special kind of guard, ranger kind of corps, whose job it is to send people out to go and make sure that the local wildlife isn't, getting up into here and having, weird, crazy animals popping up and eating people or kids or small animals. Then you'd go over here. This is the first area where you'll see, like, there's a bit of I say paved. I've said it a few times, but I'll go over it just for sake of it. These are going to essentially be zones where some cobble and some, like, gravel kind of stuff has been laid down to make more formal roads. But most of it, you're going to see this, where I've done these kind of natural worn pathways where people have walked. And then over time, it's just kind of naturally cut the routes that people take. But right now, the only two islands that have that decently done being the main island and then being the Bastion. I still need to work on the slums. I still need to work on the rich folk island, and I still need to do some work on the like administrative island, Crocabears. Oh no, Val. What? Oh no, Sebastian. Why? Why is that where you went with that? Oh no. Under the swamp. Oh no. Just you wait and see. I'm gonna find some way to involve a talking crustacean now. And I'll do a terrible accent every time I have to use that NPC. I hope you're prepared. And it's your fault. When everyone else in the party is complaining about my terrible, like, almost Jamaican crab accent, I want you to know it's on you. A talking crayfish. Not a talking crawfish. No. Oh no. A giant talking crawfish. Oh no. Oh no. Well, I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna include that into the story now. Val, why? Who the heck is this? Hold on. Okay, there we go. Bastion, the giant crawfish. Why? Oh, Val. Oh, Val. I'm done asking why at this point. I don't think it's going to help my situation at all, but I love this. Regardless, it's hilarious. Oh, goodness gracious. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to give a short tour of the of what I've got so far, let you see it. It's a short stream today. I am very tired. Beautiful sea elf with ruby hair. Oh, oh Val. I might have to see if I can come up with some kind of silly side quest as a thing that they could do at some point while they're there. With something along this line. I can't believe you've done this. I can't believe you've done this. Alright, though. Goodness gracious, my friend. Okay, however, I do think that'll be it for today. It was a quick one, but like I said, it was only gonna go for about an hour today. It's just we're maintaining the stream streak. I wanted to get in, work on this a little bit more. We got the basic paths of the Bastion laid out. We probably won't do a whole lot more to it for now because it's not going to be a more developed area. It's developed as much as the rich folk wanted it developed versus how well developed their island is going to be. But we will be back and we will have a proper length stream tomorrow. And we might work on this some more tomorrow. If we do, we'll be working on the administrative island. But for now, that is going to be it. I'm going to swap us over to our ending screen here in a moment. And then I will see, I think, yes, Sass is streaming. So we could go and raid her. Yes, and the quest line for the crawfish. Oh, goodness gracious. But alright, my friends, thank you for popping in, even for just a short, silly little stream like this one. I appreciate it. God bless y'all. Enjoy what's left of the weekend. And we will have a relaxed day tomorrow. We'll probably also watch some funny videos because it's Monday and Media Monday. It's the only good way to start the week off is with a laugh. But farewell, I'll talk to you all then. God bless y'all.
Into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me. Making me read the Bible well like this is downright, almost heretical. I cannot believe you've done this, Doctor. It's like I can still hear row, row, robozo.